21 lessons for the 21st century. Meaning. Given everything we know about the universe, it would seem utterly impossible for any sane person to believe that the ultimate truth about the universe and human existence is the story of Israel, German or Russian nationalism, or indeed of nationalism in general. A story that ignores almost of the whole of time, the whole of the space, the Big Bang, quantum physics, and the evolution of life is at most just a tiny part of the truth. Yet, people somehow manage not to see beyond it. Indeed, billions of people throughout history believe that for their lives to have meaning, they didn't even need to be absorbed into a nation or a great ideological movement. It was enough for them to just leave something behind, thereby ensuring that their personal story would continue beyond their death. The something I'll leave behind is ideally my soul or my personal essence. If I am reborn in a new body after the death of my present body, then death is not the end. It's merely the space between two chapters, and the plot that begins in one chapter will carry on into the next. Many people have at least a vague base in such a theory, even if they do not base it on any specific theology. They don't need an elaborate dogma. They just need a reassuring feeling that their story will continue beyond the horizon of death. This story of life is as a never-ending epic. It's extremely attractive and common, but it suffers from two main problems. First, by lengthening my personal story, I don't really make it more meaningful. It just makes it longer. Indeed, the two great religions that embrace the idea of a never-ending cycle of birth and death, Hinduism and Buddhism, share a horror of brutality of it all. Muslim of millions of times I learned how to walk, I grew up, I fight with my mother-in-law, I get sick, I die, and then I do it all over again. What's the point? If I could accumulate all the tears I have shed in all my previous lives, they would fill the Pacific Ocean. If I gathered together all the teeth and hair I have lost, they would make a mountain higher than the Himalayas. And what do I have to show for all that? No wonder that Hindu and Buddhist sages have focused much of their effort on finding a way to get up this merry-go-round rather than perpetuate it. The second problem with this theory is the faulty of the supporting evidence. What proof do I have that in the past life I was a medieval peasant, or Netherlands hunter, the Tyrannosaurus Rex, or an amoeba? If I really lived millions of lives, I must have been a dinosaur or an amoeba at some point. For humans have existed for only at least 2.5 million years. And in the future, will I be reborn as a cyborg, intergalactic explorer, or even a frog? Basing my life on this premise is a bit like selling my house in exchange for a post-dated check down on a bank above the clouds. People doubt that some kind of soul or spirit really survives their death, therefore strive to leave behind something a bit more tangible. That something tangible could take one of two forms, cultural or biological. I might leave behind a poem, say some of my precious genes. My life have meaning because people will still read my poem 100 years from now, or because my kids and grandchildren will still be around. And what's the meaning of their lives? Well, that's their problem, not mine. The meaning of life is thus, a bit like playing with a live hand, either live hand generate. Once you pass it on to somebody else, you are safe. Aha, the modest hope of leaving something behind is rarely fulfilled. Most organisms and ever exist became extinct without leaving any genetic inheritance. Almost all the dinosaurs, for example, were the Neanderthal people that became exist as Homo sapiens took over, or my grandmother's Polish clan. In 1934, my grandma immigrated to Jerusalem with her parents and two sisters, but most of their relatives stayed behind the Polish towns of Chemelink and Częstochowa. A few years later, the Nazis came along and wiped them out of the very last child. Attempts at leaving behind some cultural legacy are seldom more successful. Nothing had remained of my grandmother's Polish clan except for a few paid pages in the family album at the age of 96. Even my grandmother cannot match names into the faces any longer. To the best of my knowledge, they haven't left behind any cultural creation, not a poem, not a diary, not even a grocery list. You might argue that they have a share in the collective inheritance of the Jewish people or of the Zionist movement, but that hardly gives meaning to their individual lives. Moreover, how do you know that all of them cherish their Jewish identity or agree with the Zionist movement? Maybe one of them was a committed communist and sacrificed his life spying for the Soviet. Maybe another wanted nothing more than to assimilate into Polish society, served as an officer in the Polish army, and was killed by the Soviet in the Katyn massacre. Maybe a third was a radical feminist, rejecting all traditional religious and nationalist identity. Since they left nothing behind, it's all too easy to recruit them posthumously to this or that cause, and they cannot even protest. If we cannot leave something tangible behind, such as a gene or a poem, might be enough if we just make the world a little better. You can help somebody, and somebody will subsequently help somebody else, and you thereby contribute to the overall improvement of the world, and constitute a small link in the great chain of kindness. Maybe you serve as a mentor for a difficult but brilliant child, who goes on to be a doctor who saves the lives of hundreds. Maybe you help an old lady across the street, brightening up an hour of her life, though it has its merit. The great chain of kindness is a bit like the great chain of turtles. It's far from clear where its meaning comes from. A wise old man was asked what he learned about the meaning of life. Well, he answered, I have learned that I am here on earth in order to help other people. What I still haven't pictured out is why the other people are here. For those who don't trust great change, future legacy, the collective epics, perhaps the safest and the most precocious story they can turn to is romance. It doesn't seek to go beyond here and now. The countless love poems testify when they are in love, the entire universe is reduced to the earlobe, the eyelash, and the nipple of your beloved. When gazing at Juliet, leaning her cheek upon her hand, Romeo exclaimed, "Oh, that I wore a glove upon that hand, that I might touch that cheek." By connecting with your single body here and now, you feel connected with the entire cosmos. In truth, your beloved is just another human being, no different in essence from the multitudes you ignore every day in the train and the supermarket. But to you, he or she seemed infinity, and you are happy to lose yourself in the infinity. Mystic poems of all traditions have often completed romantic love with cosmic union, writing about God as your lover. Romantic poets have repeated the compliment by writing about their lover as God. If you really in love with someone, you never worry about the meaning of life. And what if you are not in love? Well, if you believe the romantic story but you are not in love, you at least know what the aim of your life is, to find true love. You have seen it in countless movies and read about it in innumerable books. You know that one day you will meet a special someone. You will see infinity inside two sparkling eyes. Your entire life will suddenly make sense, and all the questions you ever had will be answered by repeating one name over and over again, just like Tony in West Side Story, or Romeo upon seeing Juliet looking down at him from the balcony.